Whenever you're managing an injury, you've basically got two levers to pull. One, you can reduce the load on the structure you're trying to protect, and two, you can increase your ability to cope with that stress. So today I'm going to use knee pain as an example. I'm going to show you 3 key movements that you want to try and avoid, and in the second part of the video I'm going to show you 3 key exercises that are going to help to improve and strengthen your knees and reduce injuries. For all you gardeners out there, here are 3 things you want to do in order to look after your knees. So number 1, avoid squatting down. This posture puts a lot of stress on the knees and can really flare them up. So what we're going to do today is, instead of squatting down, I'm going to get down on one knee and I'm going to make sure that I don't get any less than 90-degree bend, and then from here we can trim away. Not a problem. So we've dug a hole and put the plant in, and now what we need to do is backfill it. And using the side of my foot like this is a really bad idea. It puts a lot of forces on the meniscus of the knee. It's likely to flare you up. So instead, we're going to use the rake and we're going to do it properly. Much easier, much safer, and to be honest, it looks better. Whether it's dirt or trying to move a pot plant or anything like that, if you use the side of your foot, there's every chance you're going to flare up your knee. The problem is, you might not feel it at the time. It might be the next day or the day after that you feel it. So the third movement you really want to try and avoid is twisting on your knee on a planted foot, such as would occur during the golf swing, or if you're moving the load from side to side, or as we've got in this example as well, using a whippersnipper or a brush cutter. The twisting or the rotation on the knees, it really does put a lot of stress on the meniscus. So do your best to try and avoid twisting on your knee, and sometimes just picking your feet up rather than twisting on a planted foot is the way to reduce the load as well. In this second part of the video, what I want to do is to show you 3 key exercises that are going to help to strengthen the muscles around your knee and build a little bit of toughness and resilience from when you're doing all these day-to-day activities. Okay, so the first exercise is cycling, especially on a stationary bike where you haven't got the different factors like wind and hills and so forth, and you can really control the load. There's a couple of key points when you are setting up your bike. Firstly, to make sure that as your foot goes through the full range of movement, when you're at the bottom of the stroke, you've only got a slight knee bend. Most people will have their seat too low and pedal all crouched up, and that will place a little bit more stress on the knee and on the lower back. Having said that, you don't want to be reaching for the pedal, and you don't want your knee to become dead straight when you're at the bottom of the stroke. The second thing, as old-time cyclists would say, is spinners or grinners. Try and keep the resistance low, especially at the start, so that you're not pushing and grinding on a really big gear. You want to try and get a reasonably high cadence. In other words, get your legs ticking over at a reasonable speed. Don't go grinding away on a really heavy gear. That will put too much stress on the knee as well. So the second exercise that I want to teach you today is a hip thrust. So the hip thrust exercise mainly strengthens your glute medius muscle in your butt, and that provides a lot of stability and support for your knee as well. Initially, you can do a hip thrust with your shoulders on the ground or slightly elevated, as we have it here in the video, and you basically got 2 foot planted. Your knees are roughly 90 degrees, and you're basically just lifting your pelvis up and down off the floor. Generally, we're going to go for 2 to 3 sets of 8 to 10. See how you go. If it's not uncomfortable, 3 sets of 10 will be quite okay, and you want to try and repeat this every day or every other day. Moving on from just a body weight exercise, then you can hang on to a kettlebell or a plate, 5-10 kilos, something like that, to provide a little bit more resistance, or you can switch across to a single leg hip thrust, in which case you're isolating each individual areas, which means that you won't be lifting quite as much if you do decide to add weight. The third exercise is one of my favorites for strengthening the knees. It's called a split squat. It's a variation on the normal typical squat, except because you're in a split stance, it's much easier to maintain the small of your back. It's much easier not to go too deep, and it's much easier to keep your balance as well. So unlike a lunge, we're not putting all our weight onto the forward foot. We can keep your body nice and upright so that you're distributing your body weight evenly between the front and back foot, and then you can go up and down. Now, we know through research that, and as soon as you go past that 50 degrees of knee flexion, the forces in the knee really escalate quite drastically. So it's a really good idea to not go very deep. Again, we're going to be performing 3 sets of 8. We're only going to go down to about 50 to 60 degrees of knee flexion when we're looking at the front knee. We're going to try and keep evenly distributed between the front and the back legs, and we're going to go up and down for 3 sets of 8. Because these are strength exercises, ideally we want between 2 to 3 minutes of recovery so that we're not doing these fatigued. We are developing as much strength as we can. So the split squat can be done with body weight initially, then we can progress through to using kettlebells as weights, or if you want, you can go into the Smith machine or use the free weights in the bar, and you can gradually build that up. Hope you find these valuable. Myself and Dr. Craig Allen are at Joondalup Chiropractic and always willing to offer some advice if you need any help from us.